This is the Halftime Show with Omar Durie on Pulse 95.
Where is that time? It's the Halftime Show with Omar Durie. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. Hope you're having a blessed day wherever you're tuned in around the world, whether it's 95 FM, Pulse95Radio.com, our app, Sharjah Broadcasting Authority, or even if you're watching us live on YouTube, Pulse 95 Radio, streaming as we talk. Hope you're having a wicked day. It is time, and it's that time I'm going to be giving you. It's the Halftime Show. Right. Okay. Little happy birthday message to one of my oldest friends in the game, Ashraf Abdul Hadi. Happy birthday, my bro. Hope you're having a great day in the UK. I know you're a regular on the Halftime Show. It's only right I show some love and give my brother a happy birthday message. So that's one. But what's coming up on the show, you ask? I'll tell you. Sleep and the power of sleep has been one of the things probably a lot of people neglect when it comes down to performance in sport. But it also comes down to performance in life and productivity and how we're working. So we're going to be touching on that today. Can sleep be the one most crucial domino that we neglect in performance? We're talking about that. It runs deeper than that when you detach your mind. So maybe a little bit of meditation. So anyone who is tuned in, and you, Adil from New York, will be giving you some love as well later. Now, what's going on in the world of sport? There is a documentary out now which comes out, I'd say, once a year, called All or Nothing. Now, on All or Nothing, normally, they've covered American football, they've covered football, and this year, anyone that got that contract pre-COVID would have been, rubbing their hands, because it's probably the most dramatic All or Nothing out there. And we're going to be focusing on the show. Now, unfortunately, I've got to say this as well. Who they're focusing on is Tottenham Hotspur. See, it was tough for me to say it without using any derogatory terms, but it was Tottenham Hotspur who were picked for All or Nothing. Now, what's interesting, if you're a sports fan, not necessarily just a football fan, if you're a sports fan, you get to see what really happens behind the scenes. So if you haven't watched it, the first 3 episodes are out. We're going to be discussing that today, and it's 3 episodes every week, if I get that right. Jose Mourinho is in the limelight. Tottenham Hotspur, I struggle to even say it. Tottenham Hotspur's in the light, and we're going to be talking about that. Also, we'll be taking all your questions and answers and everything you want to hear about on the only place to be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Durie on Pulse 95.
Wow, we are back. Thank you so much for showing love. Hey, listen, I got to say something, man. I always love it when you guys tune in. Seriously, I always love when you guys... You know why? Because you could be anywhere else apart from the only place to be at 3. And you're here with me, which I like. I say I'm rhyming. I don't even know it. Shout out to my RBO crew. I say that. Record that down. What's up, RBO? Mustafa, Kareen, Terry, Joe, Mel, Megs, Michelle, Kisera. Have I missed anyone? Ryan, Abby. Shout out to everyone, man. I'm so happy that you guys are here. One of the things we're talking about, and Adil New York, happy birthday to Ashraf. Ish is in the building as well. Hey, listen, we love these people. All right. The power of sleep and meditation, one of the biggest tools that we probably all neglect, including myself. I don't really sleep that well. But why I was focusing on this is because the other day I was flicking through YouTube, and then I saw Kobe Bryant, rest his soul. And he was talking about the power of meditation and sleep. And one of the things that struck a chord is he called it a performance enhancer. Now, often, a lot of the time, we neglect that, and that's how our day ends and our day starts. And it's obviously, if you finish up on a high, you start on a high the next day. And if you get the required sleep, and I'm not talking about time necessarily as in you need 10 or 9 hours or 12 hours. I'm talking about the quality of sleep. Now, normally, when I was watching this documentary on Kobe Bryant, he was talking about the power of meditation and sleep. It really struck a chord, because I was thinking, wow, like those athletes that have reached the highest, point in their careers have always had a point where it's kind of dropped a little bit. And that's something where I kind of really admire that. And I ask a lot of questions because I wonder what it takes to get them mentally right before they go into the physical aspect. Now, a lot of the times, in society, we kind of watch something before we sleep, switch that off, and then go to bed, or even fall asleep on the couch, I like myself, and then go to bed. Taking 2 hours to be able to detach yourself from a computer screen, a TV screen, whatever it is, a screen in general, your phone even, that would be the first point of the power of sleep. And that's something I kind of learned slowly. Then being able to get your brain to wire in a way where you detach yourself and all the sounds are coming out of it from outside is another thing that's huge. So that's something that's telling you that, you know, we're starting the process of sleep way before we're actually asleep. And that's where a lot of the times, including myself, I get that wrong. Now, looking at that, once we do go into that domino, sleep is probably the most neglected domino. And I often use the domino system, as I've mentioned in Reset before. It's probably the most neglected domino because we think that if you eat right and if you train right and etc., then you should be fine. But sleep allows you to stimulate your brain, your mind, your body, and your soul to be able to get the best out of performance through work, through training, through just being able to function properly. So in that sense, I'm really kind of thinking about things like the blue light when it comes to glasses. That's one thing. Things like, bedtime mode on the phone after a certain time, as Joe just mentioned now. You know, all these kind of different factors is key. What do you guys do before you sleep? That's the first part of the question. When it comes down to getting into sleep mode, what do you guys fall into the same category as mentioned? The TV, the computer? And if not, what do you do differently? I'm really thinking about that. T says, blue light glasses and a cup of rooibos. Yes. See, that's what I'm talking about. And then once you move into the power of sleep, then it's about detaching yourself. It's really about kind of just closing everything off and kind of listening to your brain without actually thinking of what's happening tomorrow. What do I have to do? How do I have to do it? These all are factors that come into it. Now in the morning, once you've got through that and your body has had the rest required, your mind can't just jump straight into it. Like when you start a car, you can't just fly onto the motorway. You kind of have to pace yourself, obviously switch the car on, etc., get that revved up. So it's the same thing with the brain. Meditation, that's where it comes in. And I'm not necessarily saying something you have to listen to as such. I mentioned this with Corinne the other day. It's more along the lines of, let's say, being able to have 5 minutes. That's what Kobe Bryant was talking about. 5 minutes of your time to be able to get yourself on track to control the rest of the day rather than chase the day. And often that's what we find ourselves doing when we leave things late or we don't kind of plan things the right way. It comes down into, being able to meditate and being able to just be, official in the sense that you're in control and you're not chasing things. Shout out to Mo as well, who's just jumped in the room. And official dancer. If that's who I think it is, if that's the World Cup dancer, I miss you, bro, man. I haven't seen you since the World Cup, but always a pleasure. Joe says, I listen to Rain and a 10-minute meditation. See, that's really good. Doing things like that, you got to find what works for you. And when you do that, that's the time where you kind of reset the day ahead and you're in control. You're not chasing what's going on. That is one of the things. And when I saw Kobe Bryant talk about it, it drew my attention even more. And it got me thinking about so many factors of what I'm not doing. Now, rest his soul, Kobe Bryant is one of many incredible athletes. And often we tend to analyze. And if it's not something that they're trying to sell, meditation is for everyone. It can be for everyone. It's not something that you have to pay to get. Detaching the mind is the one that I'm thinking about specifically because that's a skill. And shout out to Rose as well, Rose O'Donovan, who was my breathing coach during the pandemic. She helped me out a lot with just trying to master my breathing to be able to cope under situations that were high pressure or competition or something that I had to face, which obviously we all have our own challenges. So those were the things that I kind of looked at and kind of try to study more and learn more about. Shout out to Hamad and Keek as well, who are tuned in on the Instagram live at Omar Durie. But how do you guys perfect the domino of sleep? What do you guys do that you can share with us here on the Halftime Show that would be able to enhance performance and get your day starting on the right foot? 4215 Ittasalat or slide into my DMs at Omar Durie Pulse 95 Radio and let me know. Shout out to Maria as well. We'll be back right after this. If you like the music today, you're going to like what's coming up next. Here we go.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Durie on Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome back to the Halftime Show with Omar Durie. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. We got to give a little shout out to Umniya Saleh. Where is Umniya Saleh? She's somewhere in the background. Umniya Saleh is one of those people from Future Talk with Hani Balqis. Happy birthday, Hani Balqis, yesterday as well. is one of those people that always looks out for me. You know, when I come into the studio, she comes in. Are you feeling in a good mood? Are you okay? And everything. She's just such a sweet sister, man. Love her, okay? Anyway, so every now and then she brings in some treats. And for those that are on the Instagram Live, you know what I'm talking about. She brings in some cookies, but not just any cookies, some healthy cookies. And you know me, I talk about health and sports and fitness. And sometimes those who are with me, shout out to my RBO crew, they know that I have to double up and train because, you know, I can't get away with just, you know, one session because I have to work hard. So she comes and gets these treats and then calls them healthy treats. And that's why I'm giving her kind of a shout, because it's one of those things that you kind of have to indulge sometimes. Sometimes you have to indulge, just a little bit. So, to Omnia Saleh, she makes sure, you know, she keeps the spirits up. You know, she gets the healthy ingredients and she puts them together. So I had to say it on air, just because we say it on the Instagram, but not everyone is tuned into Instagram. And if you are, head over to @Omar Durie, or even better, if you want some good quality service, I'm talking about the quality of picture, then head over to the YouTube Pulse 95 Radio and you'll find us there. Right, okay, that's my Omnia love right there, giving her that. But I will say, round the world now, when it comes down to everything that's kind of coming back into normal routine, normal term. Let's try that again. Normal term. When it comes down to sports, what are you enjoying watching? You know, there's been the Formula One, there's been the tennis, the football's obviously been on. It's taking a little break now. NBA fans, I can hear you. Jamal Murray last week was so impressive and very touching in the way he delivered the message through everything that's happening in the US right now. And I really don't like talking too much about politics in sports, but I will say that when athletes use it to be able to promote their message, you know, I love that. And Jamal Murray was very emotional following his incredible performance. I think it was 50 points he got that night in taking him to a 7th game. But saying that, he had like some artwork done on his sneakers, which you know, it was more than just sport there for a second, because you know sometimes people play to the camera, you know, they like to entertain people. It's part of the game. But with him, his message was really, really good. And I look at sports nowadays, it has taken a turn. It is different. But what are you guys watching? What's out there at the moment that you think, you know what, yeah, I can't get enough of that? For example, the UFC, a lot of things are happening there, but they were kind of like the first people to get back into it. And, you know, Wimbledon was postponed this year. The Euros were postponed this year. There were so many things that obviously had coming from that southwest in the UK. We love our Wimbledon. We love our tennis. It's once a year. And you know what? It's the only time in the year that you get some sun. And that's for 2 weeks while Wimbledon is on. And so this year we didn't get a chance to enjoy that. Formula One obviously has been back. You know, there's been a few changes in moving to different companies, etc. But what have you been watching? For me, the boxing, you know, is huge for me. And I watched Dillian Whyte lose the other day to Povetkin. I was so gutted for him. Not just because he's English, but obviously Dave Caldwell was on the show. That was big. And I spoke to him because he was in his corner. And they were devastated. And I think they've set up a rematch for this year with Povetkin. And I really hope, especially knowing how much Dillian has gone through, and one of his other close friends who's a coach who was also on the show, Tunde Ajayi, who was my coach back in London. Shout out to Peacock Gym in London. He was in tears. He was crying. He was crying because, you know, sometimes as coaches, you get so attached to your athletes or your players or, you know, people that you care about. And we wear our heart on our sleeve sometimes, which I've got to hold my hand up and say I do that a lot as well. Leaving the UAE women's national team was very, very difficult for me because you establish this bond with these athletes and they're young, 13, 14, 15, and you spend years and you travel with them and you're almost like a guardian figure where, you know, when you get on the plane, you make sure they're all in line. But, you know, when they're on the plane, you're looking over your shoulder consistently just to make sure they're okay. And you see them grow up and they go through things and you're there in the background in case they need you. So there is this attachment. So I'm not surprised Tunde Ajayi, you know, shed a tear on Dillian Whyte. But I'm also weary of, you know, you're only as good as your last result. We always say that, you know. It's never always the case where coaches are always, you know, on a high. and that can be quite taxing mentally as well. And so I had to bring that up, the whole Jamal Murray thing, the Dillian White, we spoke about mental health in the last one and how you can use sport to be able to enhance performance, like mixed martial arts, like boxing. I kind of like that, and that's what the halftime show is all about. It's more than just scores and headlines and etc. It's about life, and it's about trying to figure out what goes on behind the scenes, and more importantly, what goes on in the mind when it comes down to athletes, coaches, international and local, people from all around the world experience things. So why not talk about them on the show? So shout out to Erij, speaking about UAE national team players, and Spicy as well, Hassan, who's in the group. Right. If you haven't watched the documentary All or Nothing, I recommend you watch it. And it doesn't have to be football. There's American football in there as well. Really interesting behind the scenes scoop of, we spoke about coaches, the coaching aspect, the chairman, the players, the people behind sport, the lawyers, the agents. There's a lot in there. We're going to be covering All or Nothing, the one that just got released on Sunday. We're going to do that after the break. I'm going to put a tune on for you. Come Through, Summer Walker and Usher. I love this tune. Here we go.
This is the halftime show with Omar Durie on Pulse 95.
Welcome back to the halftime show with Omar Durie. I'm your host, covering everything sport, international, local. Hope you're having a blessed day wherever you're tuned in around the world. We got Jersey, we got New York, we got London, we got the UAE. And I have to say, regarding the UAE, something I'm very, very grateful for is the UAE national team. People like Erij and Amoon and the Dr. Kariman is in on the Instagram live as well now, who just jumped in. They've always treated me with so much love and respect, even after we parted ways a couple of years ago. They were so nice, and it's very hard to walk away from a family like that. So thank you very much, everyone who's shown love and support. Now, one of the things at the moment now, with us having a bit more time on our hands, or maybe not, is Netflix. And Netflix has some good shows. Amazon Prime has some good shows. One of the shows that I really, really like is All or Nothing. Now, if you haven't watched this, they cover a lot of sports. They focus on an in-depth thing. There's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that we don't normally pay attention to because we only see the headlines or what's happening on the surface. One of those programs is called All or Nothing. And every year they come down to advertising one team for that show, and then they pick it, the producers pick it, and they put it forward. Now, whoever got this year would have been in for a treat because of the pandemic, and it never, hardly happens. So there's so many things that I would say, is key about this, because the people like myself who are into sports or into just, what goes on behind the scenes with coaches and chairmen and agents and all that kind of stuff, you get to watch it. Now, last week on Sunday, the first episode of this year came out, and it's the first 3 episodes, and it was regarding Tottenham. Tottenham were the team selected to be under the spotlight for the whole year. And in that time, Mauricio Pochettino got sacked, Jose Mourinho got brought in, there was contract issues with Christian Eriksen. This is what happened throughout the year. They just came out of a Champions League final, which they lost to Liverpool. And in that time as well, there were so many things going on that it was almost very dramatic. It's like a movie. So saying that, we get to watch that. Now, the first 3 episodes got released. I would recommend it. It's a great watch. I think it got 9.2 actually on the ratings out of 10, which is fantastic, because even if you're not into football, you get to really see the drama that happens behind the scenes, the ruthlessness of the chairman and what he's like, Daniel Levy, Jose Mourinho coming in, what he's really like with his players. I kind of felt that the Tottenham players were very anxious. You can kind of feel it in the room. There were several cameras, a bit like here in the studio, several cameras kind of zoning into how things really go behind the scenes that we're not really allowed to see. This time we're allowed to see it. So it was very, very cool. I was sitting there watching it and I was thinking, oh, I got to talk about this. This is great. Now, every week there's going to be 3 episodes. And I believe there's 9 episodes in total. It's a bit like the Michael Jordan documentary as well, The Last Stand. It has this element that you want to know more about the characters in there and the integral part that they play in each section of the experiences. So there was, like, for example, when Jose Mourinho comes in to the club, what is he really like with his players? Is he warm? Is he not? What's his humor like? the culture differences. Obviously, being so successful as a coach, when you step into a room, there's normally an aura about you. Maybe not vocally, but just a presence. And that's something that I kind of watch as well. So that was interesting. The players who all of a sudden have to adapt to a new philosophy, new ideas. There's a lot of swearing in there as well, which made it interesting. And then you start to understand the personalities a bit more than when you saw it happening live. When we see results, again, we're so quick to judge what happens on the surface that we don't really see what happens beneath. And that's why I always say regarding mental health and mental fitness, when you do feel wrongly done, or for example, someone said something that might affect you in some way, it's always important to consider what that person is going through, even if they're wrong. It doesn't mean that they're right in acting that way. It just means that they could have been going through something that you perhaps wouldn't understand unless you knew about it. And that's why I always try and give the benefit of the doubt. Now, in this documentary, it's very similar because all of a sudden, Jose Mourinho's been at Chelsea, he's been at Manchester United, now he's at Tottenham. All three clubs have their own rivalries. And all of a sudden, he always did say, I'll never go to Tottenham when he was at Chelsea. But when they asked him that in the interview, he turned around and said, that's before they sacked me. So you see, there's so many different factors here that sometimes as a coach, you're not allowed to say what really happened, the truth behind it, because either legally, you're not allowed to, or in case you come across the wrong way, you have to be kind of correct in the way you speak, and also not really say how you feel to the media. And this is where I like the documentary. He gives you an insight with his players on what he really feels. So I'm looking forward to that. If you've seen it, let us know, 4215 or do, or slide into my DMs and tell me, what did you make of the show? Do you think it was a good show? It was 3 episodes so far. I think the next 3 come out on the 7th. Good episode so far. Really, really good. Did you enjoy it? What did you like about it? And there's anything that surprised you? Now, stay tuned for more on The Only Place to Be at 3. Surf Mesa coming up on Pulse 95.
This is the Halftime Show with Omar Durie on Pulse 95.
Salam and welcome back to the Halftime Show with Omar Durie. I am your host, covering everything sport, international, local. Thank you so much for tuning in on the Halftime Show. We're almost there. We're almost there at full time. What an hour it's been. It's been great. We covered quite a few things actually today. We covered the power of sleep and meditation and how that affects performance. Could that be the one domino that we're neglecting the most? Very, very interesting in the sense of how sleep starts and when does it start. It starts a few hours before, obviously, and we're usually watching TV or looking at a screen, phone, computer. So make sure you check that. If you have missed us out, wowzers. If you have missed out on the show today, you can catch the show on YouTube, Pulse 95 Radio. Gabby and Mario, shout out to them. They do a great job in putting things together, and they put it on YouTube, and you can find it there on Pulse 95 Radio. Or if you're more of an audio person and want to listen to us on the podcast, on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Anghami, head over to the Halftime Show with Omar Durie on Pulse 95, and we are there. Question coming in quickly. Chelsea winning the league next season. I think it will take them time to embed the players into the system that Lampard wants, but they have a squad for the Champions League and the league as long as he adapts them very quickly. So that's going to be interesting. What would you do with Messi's money from Barcelona? I said this on the show the last time. I would invest the money straight into players. Neymar would have to be a replacement directly if Messi goes to Manchester City. Upamecano from Leipzig, Koulibaly, that's 2 defenders, and then maybe I'd have a cheeky bit at someone like Kante, who is a rock star. There you go, you have it, folks. That is full time on the Halftime Show. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Happy birthday to Ashraf. Hope you guys had a great show with me today. And you know what, guys? We're back again on Saturday, 3 to 4. Make sure you tune in on The Only Place to Be at 3, the Halftime Show on Pulse 95. Salam, guys.
The heart of Sharjah.
This is Pulse 95.
Heart of Sharjah.